What's up, guys? Ricardo Amendolia here for another episode of the Riccardo Baleia podcast. This is episode 9. And before we get to today's guest, one more time, I'm just going to ask you if you can quickly hit the like, the subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notified of my next podcast and any videos that I have coming up. Now, very special guest of mine, very special guest today. I'm so honored to have, this man was my first jiu-jitsu, star that I knew about when I was starting to study jiu-jitsu. I'm talking about the man himself, Mr. Ricardo Liborio. How you doing, sir?
Really? That's no believe. Oh, wow. It's an honor, brother. Ricardo, man, I'm always honored to be around you, man. Your love for this sport is something that, it's beautiful to see it, and it's inspiring for everybody. It's awesome. An honor to be here, I hope I give you some good material there, but it's an honor. It's an honor. I appreciate it. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you very much.
Well, I meant that because, to tell you the truth, like we were just talking about before we started, one of the first ways I used to really study jiu-jitsu and even learning how to speak Portuguese was through magazines and through tapes. The first tape I ever got was the 96 Worlds.
Yeah.
And, when I watched the 96 Worlds, I didn't know who's who. I didn't know, I knew Hoyle, I know Gracie. So I saw Hoyler. I was like, okay, but yeah, it was a good match, But then I was like, oh, shoot, who's this Liborio guy fighting the guy from the UFC, Remco Pardue? I knew that. So that was the first match or second match on the tape because the first one was Valigi and Holeta. I had no idea what was going on in that match. I was like, these guys have this crazy stare down. That was a cool thing that they did, but I didn't see the big deal. But with your matches, you tapped Holeta, and then the second match you tapped Marcel Figueiredo, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then in the third match you fought Castello Branco, and you didn't tap him, but man, it was a war. So when I saw that was my first jiu-jitsu tape. That was my first exposure to the sport. I was like, man, this Liborio guy, he's got the total package. He could do takedowns. He could do armbar from guard. He could do sweeps. So that's what I mean when I said that you're my first jiu-jitsu star. I really mean it, my man.
I should appreciate that, man. It's an honor for me, to honor. Well,
thank you.
Let me tell you this, Ricardo. I'm always, because I think I've been involved in the sport for such a long time. So I admire so many high-level guys, I'm a fan. I always was a fan. I like to go to the matches and watch it, and even if I can't go for quite a while, the MMA took me such a long time.
Yeah.
And I could not be physically there. Every weekend we were somewhere. It's the circus. But I was always watching everybody, at least the finals. When I go to the finals, I was watching it. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan of a BJJ. I always was a fan of BJJ. And I know the importance of BJJ, but I was going to say is I can never detach the accomplishments from the person. So I go a little bit beyond. A person has to bring something to the community that sometimes it's not even, it doesn't need to be humble or no, man. And it's funny because we're talking about this, but my family is American, and I've been here for more than 20 years. My family, I'm married in America. My wife is American. My kids are American. I grew up. I kind of insert a little bit more than the majority of presenting guys.
Okay.
So I understand a little bit more of the American culture.
Okay.
And the trash talk. Acceptability, and the way people interact and the way they actually the structure, which is commercial structure that I learned from MMA, and I learned from being involved in the culture with the WWE and the boxing. You have a better understanding of the trash talk in a way. And I'll say that I'll never be the trash talker ever.
Yeah.
But I understand why.
Yeah.
I had been in a situation that people changed their lives on being a smart mouth.
Yeah.
Because, they capitalize on it. They create awareness, more spotlight, more opportunities for them because they started talking and there's ways to do it, right? You cannot detach too much of who you are, but at the same time, you can be learning plenty with a culture that's out there. WWE and from boxing, and it's statistic, man. They make money with those, trash talk things.
Yeah.
But I can never detach my personality, or I can never detach the person and what he brings to the community to what the champion is, who's the champion.
Yeah.
So it's something that always was heavy to me. And it goes with you too, because I always saw your work, and I always saw your passion, and I always saw your attitude outside, and I'm a fan. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let everybody else know. Yeah.
That's a huge honor to hear, man. And one of the things that I noticed about you is no matter what's going on, you always seem to play it cool. I always see you, amongst some pretty tense situations, but you always look cool, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. You come from, I'm not going to say the older guard, but you came from the Carlson Gracie days, and I appreciate the attitude that you're talking about right now, and it's like smart trash talk, and there's a difference. Whereas some of the jiu-jitsu people now, they're like, the trash talk is, it's unnecessary and it's bad for the sport. I agree, like there's lines, that we don't need to cross, especially jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
But I do think, like, if you're talking about guys in a professional atmosphere, or even at Worlds, and they want to do something to spice it up, to get more eyes, to get more attention, there's a difference between that and, hype and trash talk. And I think hype is good. I think the athletes need to take a little bit of initiative. And like you said, take a page out of boxing or certain high-level athletes and learn from them and study from them. One of the guys that I watch all the time, Chael Sonnen, every day. I watch Chael Sonnen's podcast. He sits in front of a chair. And I'm built every day. I watch him, and I'm trying to build myself up to do what he does. I want to sit and talk about stories like he does, but about jiu-jitsu stuff, not about MMA. So, again, it's we got to learn from outside of the jiu-jitsu bubble, and I talk about that a lot with different people. I think in jiu-jitsu we're in this bubble, and sometimes it's good. We need to cultivate that and protect it, but sometimes we need to look outside a little bit and kind of take,
Ricardo, I don't think you always have to look at outside anywhere, at least. Man, we're martial art. We're a combination of a couple of things, right? We're martial artists. That you can never change that. If jiu-jitsu changes a martial arts itself, it's going to be a problem. I think you still have, it carries on a lot of line of respect. And people that never had this kind of the discipline of respect, to pay the respect of people that pave the path or your roots or things like that, which is different than a lot of combat sports.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is a great tool and makes a huge difference for us, even financially capitalized, because you do have rank systems, because you are posted out as a martial arts. Mm-hmm. How many of my pro fighters, even after competing, they're saying, man, I gotta get a black belt. I have to help me. I need to get a black belt because that's my diploma. That's something that I have that it doesn't have the same reflection when I fought a UFC, but I don't have anything from that except from being a UFC veteran. And when you do for the demographics for martial arts school owners, it's for the parents, man. It's awesome to have our kids. We had a huge discussion about that, but it gets involved in the business of this thing, which is, first of all, you want to open a school, you have to know what the demographics are, right? People don't understand that the business of a martial arts, 80% is into kids.
Yeah.
80% is the sustainability of martial arts is kids.
Yeah.
Well, jiu-jitsu has this carry on with a lot of adults, which is excellent, amazing. Any other traditional martial arts don't do this. Jiu-jitsu. But if you want to have something sustainable, kids, not just sustainable, but you have a longevity, but much higher. Kids start with 5 years old, 15 years old. They started contemplating if I still doing jiu-jitsu or not, because wrestling in high school, you want to be cool, things like that. But they always come back. Yeah. So you have a longevity, but you have to cater for the parent. The parent sign the checks. Yeah. It has to be good for the kid. It has to be informative, but the parent has to be something. Has to see something different in there. And a formation of the character of the kids and more other stuff that worth to pay the money. It's just expensive too. Why? You know, why pay that money? Because it's special. You try to explain it, but it has to be catered. So the martial arts component is super important. And there's a lot of combat sports that don't have that.
No.
They don't have that structure. You know, I believe it's important to keep this martial arts, you know, legacy on it. And I'm big support of that. You know, I know people are not, you know, grappling it is and wrestling it is. But the business model for wrestling is pretty different. Than wrestlers don't make money, man.
Yeah, and wrestlers, you can't, like, I always use this example. There's a lady on Instagram. Her name is the Jiu-Jitsu Grandma, 73 years old. She's just started competing.
Oh,
73. Can you what man at 70 years old goes and starts to do amateur wrestling that you know of? None. I couldn't tell you any that starts to do amateur wrestling. That doesn't happen.
Ricardo, man, jiu-jitsu are on the only one martial arts or combat sports that you can do it after a long day of work.
Yeah.
You know who told me this? Siema.
Yeah.
There's two things in a conversation with Siema told me I think it was awesome. One is jiu-jitsu is really one of the only martial arts that you can do it after a long day of work, and you still can be competitive in a certain way. Yeah. Not on the highest, the IDCC level.
No.
You still can have fun and go there. But besides that, only 3% of people that go train jiu-jitsu go for competition.
Yeah.
3%. Yeah. So there's 97% there of people that are doing this for hobby or therapy.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
You know? That's it. There's only 3% that compete. 97% just doing that, just for therapy. Or they want to look good, they want to feel good, or both.
Yeah.
You know? So you have to cater to these people. And, you know, sometimes I think, I'm trying to interject that, but sometimes I think, because jiu-jitsu are very competitive oriented, and I think it's awesome but there is more people practicing this without competition than with the competition, you know? And well, that's my thought. And I think it's awesome. I think the 100% has to be covered. We have to have more competition. But you have to have more events for those guys that are not having competition, man. You know, we did something here in Florida that I think was pretty cool. We called it Resenha. Resenha, for those that don't know, is a hangout. It's Resenha BJJ. It was a hangout with BJJ. So I talked to some of the guys here. There's beasts here in Florida. So Rodolfo is here. Malfacini is here. Jacaré is here. You know, Macaco is here. There's so many high-level guys here in jiu-jitsu. So I asked Cesare Matuda, Rodolfo Vieira, and Ronaldo Jacaré to do a seminar. We brought 300 people in.
Oh, nice.
But the best thing about it is that everybody was on a mat, Ricardo. Everybody was on a mat. What attracts us that we guarantee is knowledge, right? A seminar will bring people, but the open mat will bring people.
Yeah, that's true.
People want to roll.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be a high-level guy to do the open mat. A white belt who knows how to tap, and you know at least the basic, you know, score system, takedown is there, you'll be able to go there. And now you have an event for everybody. And after that, you have a little event. Instead of just go for event, you know, just go for competition.
Yeah.
If you just go for competition, it's only for the 3%, man.
Yeah.
You have fans around, but they're not participating as having an event when everybody's in. You know?
I like that. It's like a jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It's like a jiu-jitsu gathering. Yeah, I like that concept. You know, and we talk about the culture of jiu-jitsu, and you talk about, you know, you mentioned how there's more emphasis now more than ever on, you know, bringing the kids and getting the hobbyists involved. How different was it when you were, you know, Carlson Gracie team, when you were training at those beasts? Was that all competition? Was it all Vale Tudo, or was there hobbyists there? What was the ratio compared to today?
Oh my God. Don't forget this. So Carlson, it was a major competition team and hub, right? So everybody who was going over there, for kids of parents that knew who Carlson was, and they wanted the kids to compete or be involved in competition some way, somehow.
Okay.
You know, a lot. There is, let's put it this way. There's very few compared with what you could do it, and it's spreading the word that this was more, hobby oriented and recreational. But every kid that was there had some cue on competing, worked 80%, right? And for the adults, almost the same thing. Everybody knew it, that if you go over there, Carlson Gracie has one thing. When I got there in 84, 85. And Hollis used to be, I didn't get there when Hollis was alive. I got there after Hollis passed.
After he died, okay.
He passed, exactly. And Carlinhos left. Carlinhos just left. I think Carlinhos just stayed there for 1 or 2. After Hollis passed, Carlinhos started teaching classes there. And after that, he left to go to Baja. And Carlson had the best team in the world of a competition. Some of the guys there, and I keep saying this thing here, Ricardo, because it's almost like unfair. So there are some of those guys there that were completely idols for me. There was a guy named Peixotinho. It was a competitor on the 70s. I got there in the 84. This 70s and 80s. That guy was absolutely a stud. Was a smaller weight guy competing against anyone. He competed with Hickson and all the other guys. And his weight, he's doing so well. But he had no fear, man. This guy was in every competition representing Carlson Gracie team. But beyond anything else, like I said, go a bit again. This personality, man. This guy was bigger than life.
Yeah.
He was a guy who was talking to anyone and everyone. He given unconditional attention. He was teaching us. I was a kid, and I was learning. There's two guys that when I started really gave me all the push up was Rosado. Carlos Rosado was the only red belt from Carlson Gracie. Carlson Gracie gave him the red belt. And this guy was the person who brought me to jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
My first girlfriend, I was 16 years old. My first girlfriend, invited me for a barbecue. I went there, and her uncle was Rosado. And Rosado said, man, you're a little bit biff, guys, a little bit stocky. You should start training jiu-jitsu. Now I'm going to take you jiu-jitsu to come to Carlson Gracie tomorrow. So this was a Sunday. Monday I was there. He was there waiting for me, and I got introduced to be Liborio was an uncle, the nephew of Rosado there, which just put me in front of so many high level guys. But very few people had that in. But I was hooked. For me, it was just right away, and I knew that this thing is special to me, and I have done it. I started doing martial arts with 4 years old. I did judo, and after that, I tried to do taekwondo, and I couldn't lift my leg off the floor, not even 2 inches. And this is not for me. Yeah. And I went to do boxing, and after boxing, I went to jiu-jitsu, with Rosado, and that was it. That was it. I used to surf in this.
Yeah,
that's the only 2 sports that I really love it.
That's what you always hear. That's what you always hear about the Carioca, surfing and jiu-jitsu.
Yep, it is. And when we started, Ricardo, there was nothing. There, in the surfing community, the Gracies were big names too. They used to. I remember as a kid walking into this place called Macumba in Prainha. There's 2 beaches there in Rio, very famous surf spots. And Hickson was there. He was, I think he's 10 years older than me, but you see the guys as an adult come with a box of mangoes, and they started eating the mangoes, and we are as a kids are looking at this, man, that's Hickson Gracie there, That's awesome. And his funny thing is, I was born and raised in a place called Humaitá.
Humaitá, yeah.
Humaitá is where is the Padre Antonio Vieira, which is the school is, and where is the Gracie Humaitá from?
Yeah.
Door to door, from my house to his house to their business, is 6 minutes walking.
Wow.
I never been there. I never stepped my foot there. I went straight to Carlson Gracie. It was crazy. about this.
You know, you had the loyalty, and you guys, Carlson team. The one thing that I wanted to pick your brain about specifically is technically was the Carlson team was always known as having, you know, one, in my opinion, never trained with the Carlson team, but what I saw from the outside was that everyone knew the Carlson Gracie team as extreme physical conditioning, like giants, right? Like physical specimens. 2, tremendous top game. You know what I mean? And 3, many of the guys got into MMA, and you were one of the guys that, you know, through different things you fought and you coached. But the one thing I noticed about you, more so than some of the other guys on the team, from the footage that I've seen, is that you were very well rounded. And I'm not saying the other guys were not, but you were a finisher from the guard, whereas the other guys were more so, you know, take the person down, pass, smash. That was what the Carlson team got known, like takedown, smash, pass, submit. Whereas you would pull or take down, but you could finish from the bottom. Where did you develop your style, or how did you develop your personal style at training at Carlson's?
Listen, I felt like I didn't answer much of your previous questions. I'm just going to finish there. There's and Carlson Gracie has 2 things, Ricardo. When I got there, there was three rooms, right? There was 201, 301, and 302. 302 is for so-called amateurs, right? Okay. Everybody there knew it. That was tough and everything. But even if you're a black belt, you're not training. Don't come to 301. Because 301 is the killers. Okay. 301 is just for the killers. You've got to be invited to be in it. You know? Gotcha. I remember times that I was walking into the stairs and Paulo Filho was sitting down the stairs crying because he was 13 years old and he wants to come in 301. Your Carlson denied him to come because he was too little at the time. So this is, you know, just to answer your question, everybody knew there was a competition team in school. Yeah. He divided 302 for more recreational in a certain way, or even if you're injured or coming back from injury, go to 302. You want an easy day, go to 302. Go to 301, get ready for it. You know? Let's to answer your question. Now, going back to this is this. Man, when I got to Carlson Gracie, one of my best friends right out of the bat was Ricardo de la Riva. Okay. You know? I was really good friends with De La Riva since I got there. Since I was a teenager, you know, since I was a kid, and we kind of grew up together. And I learned a lot from De La Riva from the bottom. A lot of positions that I knew from the bottom, from the blue belt, purple belt, was a lot with De La Riva. De La Riva at one point there, he started teaching at Carlson, and I was there in his class all the time. And De La Riva got out of Carlson. And he started teaching in one school, actually it was a fitness gym called Marco Octavio. So I went with him, and I was teaching after Carlson's training. I was going with De La Riva, and I was helping him with the classes. Okay. Right? So I learned a lot with De La Riva, a lot. But besides De La Riva, there were so many guys there that you really don't hear much because they got out of jiu-jitsu after the gold days, you know? Yeah. Guys like Clovis Bevilacqua, amazing sweeps. Guys like Sergio de Souza, Bolão, yeah, I remember. Amazing sweeps from the bottom. Amazing. Guys like Marcel Duque Estrada, who is another guy that he's one of my best friends. We grew up together. And this guy, I learned so much with him. This guy never lost. Never lost. You know, he was competing against everybody, you know, in his I think it was lightweight division. And this guy never lost to the black belt. One of the best guys there. He just went for law school, and he's a judge in Brazil right now, and he just, you know, had a different life. People don't know much, but Murillo has a great guard. Murillo has a tremendous guard. Yeah. Very well-rounded. It's just, you'll see a lot of guys working from the top. Because like you said, we train to stand up. We train on the ground. But I remember Carlson saying at one point there, because of playing too much guard, he says, no more guard for you. Now you're just going to work on stand up and on the top. I don't want to see you doing guard anymore. You start on the top and that's it. And that was it, you know? And this was a purple belt or something like that. I just started working on everything. And yeah, but the difference is I used to do this and work full time and I go to school full time.
Oh, wow.
And this is a tough times. It's a tough times. After 18 years old, I have to. I got a job at Bank of Brazil, which is really good. It's a very stable job there in Brazil, and I have to go to school. And I have to go to college for business, and that was studying and doing everything. It was juggling with everything. And I was waking up 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was going to 7 o'clock in the morning class, and going to work and eating lunch, hiding on the stairs and in the bathroom sometimes, and get in a motorcycle and go back to Copacabana to get to the noon training, and get to the noon training, shower, and boom, go back to work again. And then go back to school. I used to go to school 3 days a week, and everything else is training. So wow. I did it for such a long time, man. But it was easy.
Yeah.
Loved it, Ricardo. That was my life. You know, my character. I could not. There was nothing related to this to me. There was nothing ever compared to this. You know, from work and school, and jiu-jitsu always was where my friend was. You know, it was my life was completely revolving to that community.
Yeah.
You know?
It's an amazing culture, you know, and I think that's one of the benefits that we see with jiu-jitsu. You know, I think that's why it draws people is that, you know, that tribe that you form, you know, with your training partners. You know, you try to kill them, but you're friends, and you know, you sweat and bleed with them every day, and it's a bond that you can't break. So you can make some of the best friends, like you mentioned. Looking back on your career, and I kind of mentioned it earlier on, I want to talk about, because I don't think I've ever seen you really talk about it, but the first Worlds, you know, if we can go through that a little bit. And I want to try to take a look at the video. But like I said, when the first tape I saw of you, I was like, okay, I know Remco Pardue, like from the UFC with the elbows. I don't know this Liborio guy yet. What's going to happen? What happened in that scenario? Like, was it a big deal that, you know, this guy from the UFC came to fight in that division? Like, I mean, it must have been some buzz. Was it, were you chosen specifically to fight the guy? Because I know with Carlson, there was always some interesting stories. So can you tell me a little bit about that and how that mattered?
I don't think I was handpicked to fight the guy. I really don't. I think it was, there was in a bracket and they put it in there. I really don't think so. There's something that is for Carlinhos to tell you that, because I really don't. I have no idea. There was no softwares at the time, so I believe there was, you know, it was roll the dice there, and we ended up together. But there is one thing: Renko is a beast. People don't understand. But people don't know that Renko was jiu-jitsu world champion in Europe, and he had beat Fabio Gurgel before. Have you know that?
No.
Yeah, they competed in the world
championship.
championship.
Because that's right. Because Fabio and a team, I do know something here. Fabio, Silvio Bering, and a couple other guys, they went to compete in like the sport jiu-jitsu with they had like a white padding on their gloves. Because when I trained in Atlanta, 99, I saw a picture and I was like looking, and I saw that they were in Europe or something. It looked like Europe. And it was like, and they had like the traditional jiu-jitsu. And I asked Jacare, I'm like, is that Vale Tudo? He's like, Jacare is like, no, that's the other jiu-jitsu, you know, from Japan. You know, so now, was that where he fought him?
I think so, yeah. I'm not, I try to review the researcher. I think you're going to find out more about this.
I'm going to discover.
Renko's a tough guy. And Renko will give a lot of trouble, even for the bigger guys that may not have the guard.
Yeah.
Think this way. A lot of bigger guys there may not win because, man, they are, you know, stand-up guys and try to go for the ground. So there was a chance. But he got with the little guy, you know, first. And, man, I was so ready for that match there. I was so into that, Ricardo. I want to compete so bad. I was so prepared for that. I have so many things going on going to that event. I got to go back a little bit and to tell you what happened. Like I said, I was working too much. And at one point there, I got a job as a manager in a bank. And every position in a bank, you have to task for it. And I passed it in a couple contests there with other guys, and I got the job as being a manager, which has put me in a really full-time job working and dealing with things. 1995, Carlson called me and asked me to go have lunch with him in downtown. So he came to downtown to see me, and he says, Liborio, listen, I need you to compete. There was nobody in your weight division, which I think it was middleweight. There was nobody in the middleweight division, and I need you to compete there, and I need you to compete. That's it. And for those that don't know Carlson, man, Carlson has the ways. It's almost like impossible to tell him no, man. It's, this guy was a mentor. He has some sort of brainwashing. I don't know what this is, but this guy was special.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say no to him. So I took vacation, and I prepared for the Brasileiros, for the Nationals in 1995. And I won the Nationals.
Okay.
Winning the Nationals qualified me for the 1996 Worlds.
Okay.
At the time.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I did. What happened was this. At the time, and I worked for the superintendent of the bank, that was a guy who has a really thinking and outside the box. And I told him that, hey, I need to talk to you. I think I have something that's going to be good for the bank. There is a World Championship in Jiu Jitsu coming up here, and I think I can get a really good exposure for the bank in competing over there. And the only thing you got to be doing is just give me a month to train, So I had some vacation time, plus they gave me a month to train and outside, and I had everything in my mind to actually, win. I was, from a long time, Ricardo, I had done everything right. And for that competition, I had absolutely everything right, from my diet, from my sleep, from my workouts, for my training partners. Everything was really, methodical. It was really steady and a breakdown. So I was ready, man. I was really ready for anything and everything there. Everybody at the Mundials in 1996. And I knew that if I win, I have a chance to do a proposal inside a bank. And actually, and I tell the story, I won 1996. I won a title that was the most technical black belt on the competition, which was the only time that they had this. And after that, I was in every major newspaper and every major TV sports broadcast. And this thing was everywhere.
Wow.
This was the first one. And the press really came in strong and really point out everywhere. And it kept repeating and repeating. I got all this footage and all this minutes that were putting out on the media, and I took to the superintendent. And at the time, it was worth millions.
Wow.
For being on a global, which is the major, ABC, or NBC here.
That's a big channel.
It was in every sport, like ESPN, and every major sport broadcast, that was the jiu-jitsu thing.
And you did it with a big Banco do Brazil patch on your back.
And I did it with a big Banco do Brazil.
I remember.
So this thing was boom. We capitalized on it, and I had already a proposal on it. Banco Brazil had a credit card for teenagers. We call BB Teen, and this product is for teenagers that was completely the demographics for jiu-jitsu sport. So I made it automatically in between this. I say, let me stay outside of the bank. Let me train for competition, but let me go school by school, talking to kids, talking about anti-bullying, talking about anti-drug, talking and doing some referral and get all this data of kids coming in, because what the bank really wanted is this. They want to renew.
Yeah.
What usually is like that. You open up a bank account, usually don't change that.
Yeah.
You know, if you open up, I opened up my first bank account here 20 years ago with Bank of America, and it's still to today.
Yeah.
And there's a lot like this.
Yeah.
And what I did is I went to major private schools there, people that could actually afford to do this here. And I went school by school. And it started going all the schools around. And I got this, I was sponsored by a company. You ever heard about company?
Yeah, yeah.
I was sponsored by this brand. It was a pretty fashionable brand there. And we did a couple raffles. So we did gi raffles. We did a company raffles in it and the Bank of Brazil. We raised more than 6,000 names and opened up so many accounts. It was a success.
Wow.
We made it, you know, and I stay outside of the bank training for quite a while. The only thing that is in my contract is I cannot get in any trouble and I can never fight vale tudo at the time. Because the vale tudo, it is the human cockfighting and it goes completely away from the image that the bank wanted. Yeah. Completely different. You know, a completely different animal. So I'm good. I'm good. You know, let's do it. And I kept doing this and I'm working on it. I was helping my guys with the vale tudo things, but I couldn't do it, you know, at all. But I knew it at the time until 1996. Ricardo, my mind was perfect. My spirit was perfect. But I wanted and needed it so bad. And I you know, there's always a cue of luck too. Yeah. It's always, there's things that you don't prepare for. But even for that, man, I was spiritually ready, you know, and everything went well.
That's amazing. That's further beyond the story that I ever knew about the match. And it's so cool to understand that dynamic. It's a funny story. I still remember going to Brazil in 2004 for the first time. And one of my friends was trying to find a bank to change money. And then I saw Banco do Brazil. I said, hey, that's the Bank Liborio I remember in the patch. So it worked. So your marketing methods worked on a gringo in 2004, even to that day.
Oh, that's this was important too. I was the only guy matching up against the foreigner. Yeah. So it was everybody with me. And when I went, you know, Renko, which by the way, man, this guy is amazing. He's one of the good friends. He's amazing. He really is a great person, man. And a martial artist and a jiu-jitsu player. I'm just trying to pinpoint what I think about him, and I have highly respect for him. But everybody was like Brazil against Holland. 2-1, and that was highlight for everybody there too. You know,
take me through that match just a little bit if you can. You know, I know you started with him trying to exchange the grips, then you pulled. Can you tell me a little bit about what you felt and you know, like because from what we saw in your match compared to what the only thing else that I ever saw was him against Royce, right? And Royce. I believe he took from the back, got him eventually down with the trip, and got him with a choke. But yours is, you know, kind of other end of the spectrum. You pulled and you went for the armbar. Do you remember much about how that match happened, or can you take me through it a little bit?
I remember I was trying to come from here. I always had this scissor sweep, you know, signature move that in reality is just to take you out of balance. From scissor sweep, I always invert with the foot inside for a hook sweep. You know, they're helping in. Yeah. People usually don't go from that. They bounce it back, but that's when it gives me a chance to move the hips outside, to lock it up over the shoulder.
Gotcha.
And from there, you start escalating and climbing up to go for the armbar. And if you go from there, if the person changed the posture down, there is just the loop choke and a couple other chokes that you can do from there. Okay. So they go variation from scissor sweep to the hook sweep. So sometimes there you started going for the butterfly butterfly, but also spider. Okay. So there was a little bit, but at the time I had the hand on the collar from here across and the hand controlling the arm for the same time, because there's two ways for me to do it. I felt that I'm going to get this guy in a choke, or I'm going to get this guy on the arm. You know, he was really, really strong, Ricardo. Very good base. I know that he had a very good base. It would not be a very easy thing to try to sweep him there.
Yeah.
And it worked. It worked. You know, I take him out of balance, and boom, went to the arm. Nice. And he stand up so strong. It took me up like it was nothing. He was very, very strong. But I was really too tight in the position. You know, and I rolled inside, and that's when I got the arm.
And so from there, you end up fighting Marcel Figueiredo. You ended up fighting Leo Castello Branco, and you had some amazing matches. You know, awesome highlights in both of those matches. One of the things I wanted to ask you, in your time competing, who would you have said was the guy that maybe not rival, but the guy that you most often ended up fighting?
Branco, because I competed from white belt to the black belt, and I just lost in the brown belt. And Castello beat me on a white and a brown belt. And there was one thing. Castello was, which was the Brasileiro in 1993, the Mameluca. And I lost. Carlson put me up to compete against, of course, Carlson, he put me up. I used to weigh 179 pounds. No more than that. Something like this. 170 pounds, I think. 78 kilos, 79 kilos, and tops 80 kilos. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And Carlson put me on a super heavyweight to go after Castello. And said, you gotta go compete against Castello. And so he put me on a super heavyweight against Castello and in the open weight. So I went against Castello in a super heavyweight, and I lost. I don't know if it was advantage or points. I don't remember pretty well with that. But I still had a match with him in the open weight divisions, but he left. He left the gym. He left the arena. And I think, man, I was so pissed. You know, I was really, believe that he left, you know, after he won. And I say, okay, man, I'm going after him. That's not a good friend of mine. I love him, not talking bad about him, but I said, I know I can win. I know I'm going after, man. I have to do this. You know, I have to do this. Especially there's matches that you lose it, that you think, okay, I didn't do it right. I did not have that tool, or I didn't have time. I didn't put myself into it. But when you do things right and you think that you can win, or you prepare yourself, there's something in there to say, man, I know I can do this. You know, and I knew that I have to do this, you know, in order to be mentally, you know, in peace with that. That's definitely one of my biggest rivalry. Let's put it this way.
Would you say that was probably one, like beating him at Worlds 96? Would you say that was one of your most satisfying wins in your career, or like one of your biggest accomplishments?
Yeah. 1996, yes, 100%. Because it really came from it really came from the heart. It was me with myself. It wasn't with him. They say, man, you can't do this.
Yeah.
You have to believe that you can do this. And I did everything. And I was so mentally ready, and a desire to win, a desire to I knew it, I was going to win, man. I knew it. I was ready for it, and I needed for it. There was a need for me in my soul to win. That was, you know, there's days that you know that it doesn't matter what happened, luck is going to be on my side. Even that, you know, that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. I was ready. You know,
you talked about it a little bit about Carlson, the training and stuff there, and you know, training with Telehiva, and you mentioned that there was like the advanced training. Can you tell me a little bit about the differences between, let's say, like a competition class or like the training room back then as compared to now? So I see like some of the older generation, they'll say, back in the day we just sparring and just this and maybe drills and then I hear a lot of different stories, right? Like I hear a lot of different variations. Some people just say they did 3 classes a day and they were always the same. Half hour warm up, half hour technique, half hour sparring. Other people said, no, I did judo on this day. What was a typical day of training at the Carlson team for the guys on that competition team, though, like on the high level competition team training?
So there was a group of guys, man, at Carlson Gracie team that was we can say that we took the golden age. Well, why was that? Because number one, in the 80s or 70s, there's no competition really, right? Even when I got there, there's one competition, 2 competitions a year. There was not really much competition. There's definitely no circuit. It was before, CBJJ and also IBJJF. You got to understand that. And the time that we came in the 80s, there was, and I'm going to go back to the training itself, right? I'm just trying to picture the scenario. In the 80s, what happened is there was this company called this brand. They came in and they really invested in jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu, it turns from there a trendy thing, a cool thing to do in between the teenager kids in the South Zone of Rio. Okay. Before that, and this was I don't even know, 86 and something. I really don't know exactly the dates, but when we started, it wasn't cool. There was no readily competition. Very few people were doing jiu-jitsu. It's by far to be anything that it is today. It's so further away from this reality. It's not even funny. People say, "Oh, the old days." Come on, the old days were nothing compared with what it is now. And I'm going to progressively tell you what it is now. The training from there was classes periodically. Carlson usually is there at night and at noon, but there's a lot of porrada, brother. There was a lot of training that you got there with a bunch of guys, and I like it. The best analogy that I do it is this: you place a lot of beans in your head, and you shake them, and the chances are the beans just stayed over here. It was pure pressure, but it was rather stupidity or lack of knowledge than actually the science behind things. Of course you get tough. Of course you get better. In the 80s, we're in the golden age of the thing. The first generation that really started dedicating themselves to jiu-jitsu. Now we start a number one thing. Okay, let's drill. Let's find a couple hours here so we can repeat drilling position and try to create strategies of how to develop from here to here to here to here. So there was an inclination to start putting the drilling, but we call positions, not even just the drilling. We go one after the other and we brainstorm about positions here and there. And afterward, by far, really actually when the people started competing in Vale Tudo, the conditioning came in a different scale. In a different scale. I'm not talking about a sporadic training. I'm talking about real conditioning training, real drilling, and real training. So it's almost basic that somebody who is doing jiu-jitsu nowadays, that it's at the highest level, are doing these 3 things. Or you're doing the conditioning and you go from there, some drilling, and you drill, and you alternate trainings of intensity, high level training here, high level training there. And you do this and a periodization, it's sporadically. But we had no science of this, Ricardo. Yeah. We had no science of this. We find out more when Vale Tudo came in, and we see some of the things that was been done in the outside. Because even judo at the time, judo always had a huge presence in Brazil. And the Olympics, you go take a look at the judo guys, it's porrada too. Yeah. It's pressure. So it's almost like, okay, we're following the same steps of what judo was doing there. For a lot of our guys, and Carlson Gracie was one thing. We're all training stand-up judo too. I used to train in Gama Filho and I used to train in Flamengo, but we're always there. We're always doing something over there, we stand up. And some of those guys we're competing too. So we have a good understanding of the intelligence of the conditioning training was way past. And this is really, I can say that if I had knowledge of conditioning and the training, I think it'll be way less injury, than I had in my life. And you can't compare. It's just simple. And you got to add something too. Come on, man. At my age, there was no camcorders. There's VHS tapes once in a while. Paquetá is the only guy filming. There's nobody having access to any of this technology. There was no internet. And beyond that, this is what I'm saying is, Ricardo, you have to understand this. I told you about a couple idols that I had, right? And Carlson Gracie. Clovis Bevilacqua, Marcel Duxtrada, De La Riva. Those guys did not get the CBJJ or the IBJJF. We competed everything that was supposed to be competed. But before that, so there was no how many world champions, or there was no how many Pan American champions or Europeans. There was nothing there. There's absolutely nothing. And this generation, I was 30 years old when we competed the first time, and there was really a gap. There was a gap of knowledge. And those guys that came previously before me, they didn't even get the glimpse of that. Those were the guys that stayed in Brazil, a lot of them. They stayed in Brazil. They got out of there. There was a big names at the time. I'm just posting out here Carlson Gracie guys, but how many of the Baja Gracie guys that worked at the time, or even other? Well, one of my big rivals was Fernando Gurgel, Fabio Gurgel's brother.
Magrão.
I competed with Magrão from blue to brown belt, where he had to get out to work. So him and Peklo Diet and Sahus, and there's so many guys that I competed in my time that it was before, the circuit itself. But I really don't. This thing about old school and new school, I think as the sport evolves, man. I don't go there. That's evolution of the sport, and you got to match on it. I really think that you got to prepare for it for anything, for everything. I come from a base that is definitely a lot of self-defense oriented. And when I say self-defense is this, you have to know a takedown, man. You have to know a takedown to defend yourself. You have to know basic principles of the guard, principles from the bottom. You should know everything to defend yourself. You can't go too far away from self-defense. You know, just pulling guard. And the time for you to need it, if you really got in a situation, which is very minimal chances, but but if you just know one thing, it's kind of hard. I'm saying this: learn more, do more, open your mind. Just that's the same way. Just learn everything. And for you guys, do more, learn more, go find it. It's beauty. This is an evolution, man. It's art. Art don't stop.
That's it.
You want to put a block in art is stupidity. You don't creativity.
Yeah, and I think that that's what keeps us addicted. I think it's the constant evolution. It's the constant learning. It's the constant technical advancements year after year. It's the constant, being able to express yourself differently in the art. It keeps us addicted. It keeps us constantly going. And one of the things, like one of the purposes for my podcast is really, like, I love the old school as a nostalgic, and I love the history, and I love to learn. But I also, I want to try to always find little gems of stuff that I can relate to, or maybe share with the newer generation, whether it's stories or whether it's training methodologies, because maybe the training was a little bit crazy back then. But I respect the fact and the loyalty that especially guys with Carlson would have, and what I always remembered with the Carlson Gracie team is you guys were like an army, and Carlson was the general, and it's it's something. I think it's a wonderful thing to see that. I come from a European background. My parents are Italian, and when I kind of got into the jiu-jitsu culture and understanding, I latched onto it. I understood a lot of things that maybe North American people didn't really understand. You know what I mean? Like certain things you don't say or do. It's very similar to like Italian culture. I was like, no. You know what I mean?
Root for sure.
Yeah. So,
and I feel very blessed too to understand both culture in a certain way. I emerged, like I said, in American culture in a certain way, like a very few Brazilians did. Not being born in this country, but really actually lived American lifestyle because of the family, make me good at understanding what. So a couple of things that pissed off a couple of Brazilians, I see, so I see, I can't understand why he's trying to do it here. I mean, I agree, but I understand it. I understand. I saw that probably in MMA and a multitude of times and things like that. But so I don't judge as harsh, But there was one thing. You go back to the past a little bit. Look at this. Man, Carlson was partners with Rolls Gracie. Rolls Gracie was the next guy in line from Carlson. Really. He was, after Carlson competed, came one guy, named Rolls Gracie, who was the great mentor for a whole entire generation. He inspired so many people, including all the Gracies that were young at the time. Halls was teaching Hickson, who was teaching Hoyler, who was teaching Hoyce, who was teaching Henzo. All those guys are coming from that background, were training with Halls. Halls passed away.
Yeah.
They continue a little bit. The school, Carlinho moved out. Carlinho was the second guy in teaching in the school. Carlinho moved to Baja, and everybody kind of went apart, right? Some came to, Hoyce could to do Maita. Carlinho, Henzo, and Half, and the kids came to the other thing. Jean-Jacques went with them, and the Machados went there, right? With Carlinhos. And what happened is there was a gap in a certain way on this. Carlson was the general, and he still is a general. Now, all the guys there, the guys were still with Carlson, still in that South Zone of Rio. And Carlson had the absolute best team by far, probably more titles than Alliance had at that period of time.
Yeah.
And from 82, that one Carlson, even before that, he was already a champion. But even before that, but to 96, 100%, Carlson was winning everything.
Yeah.
Everything. But what happened is this. Carlson was, in my opinion, the Robin Hood of jiu-jitsu, man. He really opened up for the guy who could not pay, the guy who could never be actually into a other schools, right there, that could never afford it. Guys that could never afford it, and he was bringing in. Guys that he see there's potential, there was dedication. He said, man, come over here. How much you paid there? How you doing? Something, how much? Come on, let's pay over there. He was never a business guy.
Yeah.
And that was really dear to him at one point, not being a business guy. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm saying, and he was human. He had many mistakes, but heart wasn't with it. This guy was a Robin Hood of jiu-jitsu. He really would take his shirt up to give it to the homeless right there. And he was able to really gather all those guys that were so loyal to him. But more than that, those guys believe it that we're going somewhere with this. Even for me, I had the job and I was working, and it was one of the hardest decisions in my life to get out of the Bank of Brazil. But what I did it, if I do jiu-jitsu, is because Carlson mentored me, to quit the Bank of Brazil with whoever knows what Bank of Brazil is one of the most stable jobs there. And I was a manager making real money. I left everything for jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
And it was like, holy crap. Try to explain this to your parents, Holy moly. It was a hard time. Yeah. But I said, man, I got to do it. I would never be great in banking. I will never be the best there, but I can, I can gather something over here in jiu-jitsu, There's so much love into the, I always can get a chance to be great and something they love. So that was their decision for me, but it was his inspiration. Now, in a way, everybody from the jiu-jitsu team dropped it for the Vale Tudo.
Yeah.
For you to understand, in 1991, there was this big collapse in between luta livre and jiu-jitsu. And Carlson was the guy to train everybody against the luta livre guys.
Even guys from other teams, they would come
Well, I was there training with the guys, Fabio Gurgel, Marcelo Bering, which was really one of the biggest leaderships that they have there. Fabio Gurgel, Marcelo Bering, a bunch of other guys came in to train in together. Murilo Bustamante and Mario Sperry, Amaury Bitecci, all those guys, Alan Goyes, Ricardo, Bebel. There's so many guys there training for this Vale Tudo thing. And Carlson was the general. Carlson was still the leader on this thing. Every jiu-jitsu guy beat the luta livre guys. And that was for us in 1991, the beginning of the era of Vale Tudo, because people started reading and actually went to the major TV. Oh, I can't forget to tell, Walid Ismail was there. Walid is a big-time representative of jiu-jitsu. This is went on TV, which would create a mess, Ricardo. You have no idea. This was primetime TV with the TV we call Global, with a major TV channel there. And that was a big shit storm. I gotta tell you, storm, because all the community, everybody in the city was talking about it. Valid's headbutting Eugenio Tadeo, and it was shocking for a lot of people that never saw Vale Tudo before. But that was the decision for people to say, okay, there is a spotlight here, there is money in here, and that's when the Vale Tudo started actually spread out. And that was in Europe, there was a lot of investors that started pinpoint here. And UFC was created. So all the jiu-jitsu guys at Carlson Gracie that was winning every day, boom, in Vale Tudo. Including, I'm telling you, including me. Even if I could not fight, man, I was presencing this maestro, this genius of the Vale Tudo, teaching Vale Tudo to all those guys. So people ask me why I, transitioned from there to BTT to ATT, because my knowledge on the Vale Tudo, from Vale Tudo to no holds barred to MMA, was irreplaceable, man. I was there from the beginning. I was there in the backstage in the corner of the guys, until 1991. And from there to all the other events, and it was just too much of it was just too much knowledge. I could not use it. I knew how to do it. See him working with people. The hardest part is not the technical part. Hardest part is people by far.
So you guys, okay, so you hit something that was very interesting to me just now that I don't think a lot of people talk about. And I think that you hit a point where the Vale Tudo Jiu-Jitsu, Desafio, right? Like when they had that happened much before the UFC. And then the UFC happened. And you said it best. You said that when that hit global, then everybody's promoters' eyes got big and said, hey, I got something here. So I think that there's a part of history here that you touched on that not a lot of people understand. They know the story of Horian, going to the States, but where did it come from? It came from, this battle that you guys had with Luta Livre, and I find it so interesting that
I'm sorry, I got even that. Listen, before that, Carlson was already fighting. Helio was already fighting. Carlson was already fighting. There was a gold generation of Vale Tudo guys that were competing against other backgrounds there. That was in the 50s, Just that, in one point, all this just the trash talk and
the attention,
the attention gets the community don't like tension. Society don't like tension all the time. People, as much as you use it for selling, it gets to a point that you have to change the music.
Yeah.
And jiu-jitsu was proved as to being one of the best 100%. It was shown in against other backgrounds. Now you got to create this in a way that people see the other side of it, which is it's the philosophical, it's the spiritual, it's the
lifestyle.
There's so many. There's not just lifestyle, man. There is no price tag in teaching your kid not being bullied or be more confident, to put your head up, all the little things, or even your kid learn how to. Yesterday, I was in a talk with Tanquinho, and in a couple lives, I asked a question if you have to take one quality, one characteristics from the sport itself, what it would be. I'm telling you this. If I tell you the 70% that I talk to, people say resilience, this ability to lose and continue working without losing faith. That is a secret for success for anybody, regardless of anything, for any relationship, for any job description, for any work that you're doing, for any aspirations that you have, man. You have to learn that, man, you're going to lose it, but it's all right, man. It's part of the process. Just keep on going, just don't quit. And it's easy to say, but not a lot of people can. A lot of people don't compete, Ricardo, in my opinion, for one of the main reasons is, you make an image of yourself in a certain way here, and you go to competition and you lose it. People are afraid of being embarrassed in front of other people.
Yeah.
Most likely. And you have to struggle with your own self. You got to make peace of losing it and continue believing not just in yourself, but continue believing that you can get it. Mm-hmm. That's something that you learn it, that you can get it if you continue working.
Yeah.
Not everybody will understand that.
No.
And that's a great thing to teach your kids, man, to proceed. Yeah. And that's something that's so amazing to me that, that's something that I teach my daughters.
Yeah.
I put in martial arts because of that, because I believe that this is going to help them, tremendously in life.
Yeah.
Medals are great, man. Medals are great, but the new version of the trophy is going to come out. It's going to be more interesting than the first one, and it will be subsequently, the landscape changes pretty fast.
Yeah.
But when you really bring it in, holy crap, man! It's the beauty, and I think the beauty has to be spread out more.
Exactly. That's one of the things that I know with even my son when he goes to jiu-jitsu, and he doesn't train as much as I want him to, but the whole thing I say to him is if you want to do another sport, you can, but you're still going to do jiu-jitsu at least once or twice a week until you get your blue belt. When you get your blue belt, I know that you'll be at least able to defend yourself in a fight, right? And then that's it. Now, if you want to go from blue to black, you have 150%. You have a black belt coach. I'm gonna be there for you. But the thing is, I keep pushing him, and I say, listen, when you go train today, there's three things. You pay attention to everything the professor says. You try your best, and if you lose, you get back up and try again. And that's all. And he'll be like, yeah, but Daddy, the guy swept me. I go, I don't care. Did you try your best? Yeah. Did you get up and try again? Yes. That's all I care. That's all. I just keep doing it. And that's for me. That's something. It goes beyond the medals. Like you said, there's always going to be a new medal. There's always going to be a new trophy. So for me, it's just teaching them how to never give up. That I feel like is one of the biggest benefits of being a parent. And like you said, that's something that we have to push this wonderful art to the masses. Professor Liborio, I know we went over time, but no. Listen. I didn't even touch 10 of the things that I wanted to with you today.
There's so many things, right?
There's so many things.
Past it, I think even controlling the time. You're right. There's 113 minutes already.
What we're gonna do is we'll reserve part 2 because now I got a lot of background. We'll reserve part 2 for another day, and we're gonna go talk a little bit more about you had ADCC, you had some historical matches there, other competitions, your life in America, and a lot of other things that I wanted to touch on. Man, because I could sit here and just listen to you talk all day. It was awesome.
It's easy, Ricardo.
Yeah.
It's easy. That's
All
what
right.
it's because it's driven with passion, man. You are the same there. It's easy. It goes easy on it. Brother,
Yeah.
thank you. Know that I'm your fan. Much love to you.
Thank you.
With the family too. You know, this time of craziness.
Yeah.
One day when this whole craziness pass by, you come see me in Orlando, see what we're doing at UCF. You're going to enjoy that a lot. Okay.
100%. Because now we have in my city, I live just outside of Toronto. We have a direct flight to Orlando, 10 minutes from my house for the airport. So I'm gonna come visit you for sure once this thing's all done.
Man, brother, God bless you. Thank you so
All
much
right.
for what you do. Seriously, thank you so much for all you do, man. Everybody loves it. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
With the right spirit, with the right mind, but everything is in the right place there, brother. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it too, brother. Thank you so much. And guys, if you're watching this, I hope you enjoyed the podcast here with Professor Ricardo Liborio. I'm going to invite him on for part 2. We'll get more into more background. Stay tuned for part 10 or episode 10 of the Ricardo Baleia podcast coming soon, guys. Have a good one. Stay safe, everyone.
Ciao.